I used to be a famous YouTuber. I used to be a big YouTube vlogger a few years ago. I had my face out there. I showed where I shopped, my gym, even did a house tour inside my house. Then one day I made a video showing my backyard. I was getting a pool built in and just finished constructing a pool house. This was a mistake. Because of that video, I got a stalker showing up to my house and harassing me. It wasn't anything like the Hunting Adeline books. Do you remember when she ran out of her house with a bat because she wasn't going to be punked out by some weirdo? That is how I was. For 7 months. But it got exhausting and it progressively got worse, which led me to being terrified of stepping outside. At the time this all started, I was 22 years old, female, and I had a boyfriend who was working from home, but he also had to travel every once in a while. I would catch things when I would start editing my videos, such as recording myself getting out of the car, and when I would return I would see a handprint or a smudge on my driver's side window. I never thought too much of it. I mainly did daily vlogs where I would show my busier days, such as going to the gym, Trader Joe's, etc. When I would do home self-care vlogs, it would be kinda rare. Maybe once a month? This video is where I figured out I had someone coming into my house. My boyfriend had left for a business trip, and I remember it being a Tuesday because on Monday I uploaded the video showing the pool being almost complete. I started doing a house vlog and then stepped out to get some cleaning supplies at Target. When I got home I thought it felt a little weird, like the air felt heavy. Well, I just brushed it off and continued with my day. Thursday, I started going through the video footage and there it was. The reason I felt so sick was because in the clip where I was leaving I saw a head popped up in a corner of my backyard window. We didn't have workers come that entire week since my boyfriend didn't feel comfortable of a bunch of men being in my backyard, understandably. So there should have been no one there. While I was looking, I noticed that I had a vase on my kitchen counter with wilting flowers. But in the next clip where I was showing my little haul, the flowers were alive. They were fresh and the exact same flowers that I would get at Trader Joe's. The only issue is that the closest Trader Joe's to me was about 30 minutes away from me and the Target was down the street. I was in and out in about 20 minutes, so the time that it would have taken anyone to go to the grocery store and back would have taken at least an hour. I got the chills and felt like throwing up. He got inside my house. I called my boyfriend and told him I just felt a little scared for no reasons and if he could get back home sooner. He told me that he already changed his flight, so he would be back Friday afternoon instead of Saturday night. Perfect. I called one of my girlfriends to see if she wanted to spend the night and we could just drink and hang out. She said yes and that she'd be on her way. Well, when she got here it was already past 9 and she asked, "What is my man fixing so late at night?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Yeah, I saw him going around to the side and just waved at me." Is the light busted? I grabbed a broomstick and went running out, started screaming. It was so bad that the neighbors came out asking what the heck was going on. I told them what my friend saw and that my BF was out of town, so the husband got his son and they both went looking around but nothing. The guy was already gone. We all went back inside our homes. Me and my friend just went to my room and locked all the doors. Then my boyfriend came home and was asking me why I left my panties on the outside of the front door. He was mad until he noticed how scared both of us were. I told him what happened and he got cameras installed ASAP. A couple of nights went by and I almost forgot about it all. Until I went to a new gym. My friend asked if I could use her friend as a personal trainer for a video to give her some traction and I agreed. It was a new video that I didn't even plan out. Well, the day I was going to the gym for my appointed session, I got an alert that my Amazon package arrived. I looked out front and to the side, it wasn't there. I looked at the app and it had a picture of my rug, but it wasn't there. It took literally 2 minutes to get it swiped. I was upset, but I would deal with it later. I got the Today gym and went into the locker room and on the bench was an Amazon package. I thought it was weird, but I ignored it since someone must have brought their package, right? I put my items in a locker and went on with my session. When I came back to the locker, it was a big jammed. I asked the desk for some help and they went in and popped it open. The box was in my locker. I also wanted to share really quick that I had put my own lock on it. It wasn't a lock borrowed from the gym itself. They kinda scolded me about adding large items like this in my locker, but I ignored them because I was stunned. I took the package out and it had my name. I opened it and it was my package that was taken from my doorstep. I didn't share anything on my YouTube channel. I assumed that it was a loser trying to get attention and fame, so I pretended that nothing happened. Weeks goes by and I was always finding my items that were inside my house at stores. I've called the cops multiple times, but as you may know, the system sucks and they couldn't do anything. But if I was to disappear, then at least I had it in the system. Things between me and my boyfriend got rocky because now it was affecting his work. He would find personal files edited and photos deleted. He got calls from his family screaming at him because they got text messages in the middle of the night saying he was going to do some insane things or him saying ugly things that he never did. He would be asleep at 2 a.m. His bedtime was 10 p.m. the latest. We eventually broke it off because it was so bad. He didn't want to leave me to deal with it alone, but I felt more alone with him than actually him being gone. My upload became sporadic and quality was declining. My subscribers saw how I started to fall apart and they were all asking what's wrong. The last video I uploaded, I was saying my goodbyes and thank you for everything. I said I was going to focus on school again and that it was basically time for me to go another route. In the back of me was a shadow waving. What I found at an abandoned psychiatric hospital, true occult story. I'd like to preface this story by acknowledging that the truthfulness or reliability of asylum or escaped mental patient stories tends to be questionable. The reason why I'm skeptical of those stories is that large-scale closures of asylums began in 1967 through the 1980s and were completely decommissioned by 2015. So I raise my eyebrow whenever someone talks about spooky asylum stories that happened within the last 2 decades or so. Still, I will be sharing my story as factually as my memory allows and refrain from exaggerating any aspect because, unfortunately, this story is true through and through. I often visited my grandparents' home in Traverse City in northern Michigan during the summers with my parents. Traverse City, TC, is a beautiful place, produces 75% of the world's cherries, and was home to the Traverse City Regional Psychiatric Hospital, which operated from 1885 to 1989. Since the United States federal government officially deemed the hospital worthy of preservation for its historical significance, the buildings on the hospital grounds were guarded by patrolling security guards. The TC Psychiatric Hospital was massive, including 70 or 80 buildings of various sizes. Some buildings have now been converted into restaurants, gift shops, tourism traps, cafes, etc., but many remain empty and abandoned. Underneath the hospital is a sprawling brick tunnel system which the hospital staff used to safely transport the patients from building to building in the frigid winter temperatures. I am sure there were instances where the patients underwent cruel treatments or were subjected to the care of horrible doctors, but the TC Psych Hospital had a great reputation. Many teenagers, including myself at the time, were unashamedly fascinated with the hospital and its history. As a result, we would often break into abandoned buildings through unbarred windows or doors with pickable padlocks. While there were a few cases where teens would get caught and charged with breaking and entering, as long as we were stealthy, stuck to our safe entrances, and paid attention to the guards' patrol patterns, we could go in and out without worry. I'm not advocating for or trying to justify my criminal act of B&E, but breaking into the old hospital was almost a rite of passage for the TC teens. The hospital's interior was terrifying. There was old, stained, and broken equipment and furniture, crumbling floors and walls, vandalism, strange, old building, noises, and complete and utter darkness in the tunnels, basements, and lower floors. Using flashlights was too risky with the guards patrolling, so we often navigated the hospital by memory and our dimly lit phone screens. As you can imagine, our frightened youthful imaginations ran wild with horror stories, which is pretty ironic considering we made up most of those stories. I'm sorry to disappoint, but I never encountered anything supernatural in all of my trips to the abandoned TC Psych Hospital. Unfortunately, During my last trip inside, I encountered something all too human that terrified me to the point I swore off ever returning. The story takes place around 10 p.m. The moonlight was dim and most patrol guards left for the day. Clad in black, my friend Jason and I entered through the same window we always used and followed our regular path to one of the tall jutting spires to sit by the windows that overlooked the entire city. There was only one thing different about this venture from our others, a new faint and unexplainable smoky odor, not smoky like fire but something more akin to incense. The smell was so faint we almost thought we were imagining it, but it grew stronger as we got closer to our destination. Rather than taking the stairs that led up to the spire, we followed the smell down a different hallway until we reached a room with a deep red glow emanating from the doorway. Rather than doing the smart thing by leaving immediately, we couldn't resist the urge to walk closer and investigate. When we finally reached the room, I audibly gasped and felt Jason grip my wrist so hard his nails left marks on my skin. We found a large ring of red votive candles and burning incense circling a drawing of a pentagram with the sigil of Baphomet. In the center of the drawing was a dead, bloodied bird surrounded by black feathers. Bear in mind that I was raised devoutly Catholic, so seeing this image filled me with a sense of fear stronger and more paralyzing than any ghost sighting ever could. Later on that night, Jason told me I immediately started mumbling prayers, but I personally don't remember doing that. I wouldn't be too terribly surprised, though. While the duration felt infinite, I'm not sure how long we stared at the occult scene before hearing a man's low and ominous voice behind us saying, "Welcome, friends." I promise you that there was absolutely nothing friendly about the way that guy greeted us. Jason and I screamed bloody murder, whipped around, and saw two nicely dressed but frazzled-looking adult men smiling at us. The man in front of me held something in his hand, and while I can't say for sure what it was, I remember thinking it was a knife at the time, which wouldn't be too crazy of a guess considering they recently sacrificed a bird. Jason and I sprinted past the two, and I felt someone's fingers grab the back of my shirt. Thankfully, the occultist's hand didn't have a solid hold on me because I ducked and managed to escape his grip. The men shouted for us to stop running, we obviously didn't. We heard their footsteps chasing after us for a little while, but thankfully Jason and I had broken into the hospital so many times that running through the unlit rooms, hallways, and tunnels was no challenge. When we finally reached and vaulted through our escape window, the occultists were nowhere to be seen or heard. We kept running through the hospital grounds until we reached Jason's car with no concern for the patrol guards. We would have rather gotten caught by the guards than the occultists. I puked twice in the parking lot, whether the cause was fear, sprinting non-stop for a mile and a half, or a combination of both. I'm not sure what would have happened if the occultists caught us, but I know for certain they weren't going to crack open a beer and sing Kumbaya by the candlelight. I'm not familiar with cultic practices or satanic rituals, so I'm not sure what the men were trying to do or if they were summoning something. If anyone reading this post is more knowledgeable on the topic, please share your thoughts. Jason and I never returned to the hospital during that summer or any of the following summers.